1, 2.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah, cool.
Okay. Look, God bless.
Yeah.
Something like this happened just a few days ago, and we are like troubleshooting for a lot of time, and I learned that just you need to restart Discord. You restart Discord and disappear. I don't know what happened.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, so we're basically ready to start, right?
Yep.
So I would like to notice that in the audience on this event, we have a distinguished guest, Sifaan, Sifaan Zavahir from Sri Lanka, a fighter for human rights. Hello.
Hello, hello. Good to connect with you, Peter and Fellas. And I'm not sure if I know anybody else in the audience, but yeah, greetings from Sri Lanka.
Greetings, greetings. Palace, Sifan, great pleasure to host you in Poland once and meet you and know you. You fight for children rights. You visited our best school. There is evidence on the net for people to see how you visit our country. You're the new Korczak of this planet. If people don't know who Korczak is a Polish pioneer of democratic schooling. Sadly, in education, the forces of coercion keep winning.
Hello.
So, hello.
That was my son Sahil. He wanted to see if he could say
Wow.
hello.
Oh my God, fantastic. I saw your videos. I saw your videos, little man. So, yeah, I know. So, I basically have one question today. What can we do to change this world and to help kids not be forced to school on a massive scale like we have had for the last 200 years?
So you want me to answer that, or
Stefan, nobody's raising a hand. So, what's your idea?
sorry? Um, okay, I looking at what I have seen over the last couple of years, especially, it's getting increasingly harder because in a lot of countries, governments are becoming more and more controlling of the system, and the maybe legal opportunities or loopholes that some of us or people in some countries were able to use in the past are being closed off. And um, I think this is sort of mirroring what's happening in the politics of the world, where we have more right wing kind of governments coming into place. And I think we need to, those of us working for freedom for children, need to, I think, recognize how this is all connected with our political systems and our economic systems. And so, for example, if we are homeschooling children to achieve the same outcomes of school, that is to pass the same exams, get the same kind of grades, go on to the same kind of universities, it's not really uh, changing anything, I think, because there is some degree of flexibility or freedom for that child, because they are maybe in a less immediately coercive environment than a school system, but ultimately they're part of that same system. And then, whether the curricular pressure is there at school or the curricular pressure is there at home, it's not hugely different. Um, and uh, and I think the reason why the curricular pressure is there is because the access to desirable higher education opportunities, the access to nice work opportunities are restricted behind grades and things like that. So I think
Stefan,
we. Hmm?
Stefan, I think I think we should focus on where we disagree because I
Right.
think, at least in this audience, we have the free learning community who appreciate the value of freedom. So you don't need to explain the philosophy because I think everybody was with you. I will
Right.
emphasize where I disagree with you. And when I picked one thing from your statement of
Mm-hmm.
the shift to the right, from
Mm-hmm.
my perspective, and possibly also for other people from the global perspective, I see the opposite. I see this
Mm-hmm.
shift to the right is actually beneficial for freedom. For example, in my country, in Poland, we have a couple of presidential candidates and also parties which are on the right, even extreme right, even to the point where you would condemn. Why would you associate with this kind of people? But those people, strangely, they support freedom. And if I was to say, where is the most support for our freedom idea of Lex Libertas, the idea for the education reform, it's almost exclusively on the right. And in a global perspective, what Elon Musk is doing is also a kind of shift to the right. But Elon Musk is known for Ad Astra inspiration, eliminating the Department of Education, which you may see as a backward move, but I see as a move in the direction of freedom on condition. On condition, individual families absorb the culture of freedom. So I'm also not entirely happy with that kind of shift. But in terms of educational freedom, I see the opposite. This shift is beneficial. And in my country, I'm pretty sure, but maybe Jager, who is from Poland, he could comment on that. Uh, I think there is a shift to the right, but from the point of view of freedom of education, it's rather good a good thing. Once we get the freedom of education, we have freedom of thought, and there'll be no right, no left. There'll be the diversity and a happy society. Jägermeister, would you like to speak about the shift to the right? Okay. So I would add one thing, Sifaan, an interesting thing. Yes, no, actually, today, my family, my friends are outraged that I spread a selfie with a presidential candidate from the most right option. That's called in Confederacja in Poland. If people from Poland, they will know. That's Sławomir Mencen. He's very unpopular of people on the right or even center. He's, for example, against helping Ukraine. And all I wanted to do is to let him know about Lex Libertas, because actually his educational program is pretty similar to Lex Libertas in terms of freeing the children, supporting them with educational vouchers, and autonomy for the schools, which probably you'll be able to say more about. So, are you shocked, Sifan? I am taking selfies with the right wingers.
Um, I think it's a case that um we need to find allies in places, but we need to also be careful of what we are promoting because I think the danger of the right wing sort of governments is that on the surface it looks like they're promoting educational freedom at an individual level, but at the I think that's only so far as they can defund public education, and that's what we see massively happening in the US.
Mhm.
And this means that a few individuals have more freedom and choice, but the majority are going to have less choice than they had before, and this is going to increase inequality, increase crime, and there are issues like that. I mean, this is maybe a larger political kind of thing that we maybe don't have time to tune into on this call. But where I was trying to go with this is that we need to I mean, there are a lot of people trying to do things in political change as well as economic change. And I think it's not enough for people trying to work in educational change to only network and connect with other people trying to change education. We need to also work with people who are striving to make changes in our social, economic, and political systems. And so we
Yes.
need to reach out so that, like, the it's not a immediate answer to the question you originally asked, but I think without doing that, we are just going to be a lot of isolated efforts around the world and struggling to gain traction. And the more we can support each other, be a community, like, even with the school we're trying to do in Sri Lanka, parents feel really isolated because everybody else around them who is in the mainstream system and who knows that their child is not happy in the mainstream school, and that they're forcing their child to go to that school, is attacking them and saying, look, you are doing something wrong, you should send your child to school. So our parents feel really isolated, and I wish they would be participating in, these international conference and things that are sometimes even free to attend, and then they realize that they're not alone, even if they're alone in Sri Lanka. So I think to the greater extent that we can meet people and connect. So even why I accepted this invitation to join, even though I know only very few people here, is I think it's an opportunity to connect. And whether we agree or disagree on the right wing thing, we still have a good connection where we can continue to speak about these things. And I think a lot of time in politics, if we disagree politically, we're not able to have a conversation with that person. And I think then from our humanity, we have lost something there already.
So I will reassure you, it's this is the side effect of democracy. So in democracy, we have political parties which accumulate a great deal of vectors. You try to direct all those vectors of influence and power for maximizing the number of votes without compromising certain values they represent. While I see myself or people who I work with as allies in terms of freeing the education. So our goal is to work more like in neurocracy, like in a brain, like in a concept network, that we are representative of a single vector, of a single subject, and we try to exert that vector on those political forces. So we will go to the extreme left and extreme right, and I will even boast that we managed to organize a parliamentary debate, and that's not in the parliament, but between parliamentarians. One is from the left, one from the right, and the host was a presidential candidate, more or less without a party association. It was about the freedom of education. And now we have a presidential candidate who supports Lex Libertas, our idea, except he may not be able to pass through the 100,000%, 100,000 vote support. So we are pushing in all directions. And where I disagree with you is only the fact that we find more friends on the right than we find friends on the left. We have much more skepticism on the left, just because I think there was this altruistic wish to improve the society, which is great, based on the ignorance of the importance of freedom in learning. So strangely, this combination leads to the fact that the people on the right are more receptive to our ideas, and this is how it happens that my family and my friends are outraged that I associate with the presidential candidate who is so much on the right. But, Sifan, but you said something about some trouble in your school. You said that you lost two families.
Yes, so we recently, so this is a slight aside, but we recently participated in uh, international research on what a child's evolving capacity means, because there was some publication done in 2005, and there are some professors of child rights and people who are renewing that research for this year. And so we were able to have some children from Kinder Republic take part, and they were talking about the decisions made in their home, in their education, in their online space and things, and who makes these decisions. And these children were very much aware that they participated in these decisions much more than their other friends and relatives, because in that mainstream system, children don't have much opportunity to participate. So, like even in the example they gave in the research, it was one of the examples of things that children do not are not involved in deciding. Um, and Sahil is reminding me to say that he was one of the children in the research. One of the examples of things that children do not have a say in was the school rules. And then they were laughing about that because obviously, with us, school rules are things that children participate in deciding. So, uh, what we realize is that when families when the parents want to control their children's education, and when educational liberty means that the parent is choosing rather than the state, it's still going to be problematic. And this is what I see a lot of in the US, and why I'm kind of worried about the influence of the US homeschooling movement internationally. Because from a child rights perspective, it should be the child who is making decisions on this as much as possible. So when families interpret our freedom as being freedom for the parents to do what they want rather than the child, then it doesn't work. Eventually, the child realizes that they have less freedom in their life than some of their peers, and they start asking questions of parents. Why do I have the limits on screen time and the others don't? Why is this and why is that? And the parents are not able to answer that question because they don't think they should answer children's questions, and then they end up leaving. So um,
I'm very
so
I'm very sympathetic to your position because probably you have much harder life in Sri Lanka than we have it in Poland because those cultural aspects probably makes it much harder.
correct. So um we jumped into the open economy at the time of Reagan and Thatcher, and so the inequality levels, and so although we have a quite decent public health system, overall welfare levels and protection for rights is not as good as in the European Union. And when people talk about the Finnish school system being so good, they don't really talk about the fact that regardless of how well you do in school, you have a pretty decent quality of life. You're not going to end up on the streets and unable to have a decent meal or unable to access healthcare if you don't have top grades in school, which is a problem in Sri Lanka or in countries like India. So, and this is why the way the economic system is organized also impacts how the education system is going to be. Um, so yeah, we had some challenges with that, and I think we really have to, in our onboarding, find families that respect children's autonomy and not just look at the parental choice when it comes to education.
I would like to know if you are aware that in Summerhill, Alexander Neal wrote something about his school, that one of the preconditions for kids to land in his school was for a parent to say he got, obviously it was a boarding school, so that's a big difference, but the parent had to sign an agreement. I no longer try to coerce or change or control the way the school functions. The school was fully democratic, and it was the kids who were the true rulers in Summerhill. Are you aware of that this contract clause that parents have, and probably in Sri Lanka wouldn't be possible, but for cultural reasons? But I'm just curious.
I was not aware that it was so explicit, but we are wanting to have some sort of contract where we talk about what we do with right-centric education, what it means for a child's right to be heard, and that uh, joining the school is uh, because it's not only the child who joins, really the parents are also joining that community, and that if we are not willing to see a child as a complete human being with human rights, then it's not going to work. And of course, it's going to be a difficult perspective to absorb, and we are happy to walk the journey with them because a few years, 7 years ago, I wasn't ready for that either. But it has to be a clear commitment that we are going to try to work on this and do our best on this. And if they're not able to make that commitment, then I don't think we can enroll them. Um, uh, but yes, I mean, in a way, it's also sad that Summerhill is over 100 years old, and the number of places that replicate what Summerhill is like is still so small and still is so isolated that many policymakers are unaware, like there's such a thing as a democratic school or something.
So maybe I will say something optimistic because from your point of view, it may look like the news is tightening. The people believe we need more education. More education means it changes the psychology of children. When they grow up, they think we need more cohesive education. So it's a loop that is the news is tightening. But I see one beautiful trend in Poland. Now we have a school which is called School in the Cloud, In Polish, it's called chmura. Maybe you should remember the name because God knows, maybe it'd be famous in the whole world.
We
This
tried
school.
to meet the founder, but we didn't manage to.
Yes, that was the day. Yes, when you were in Warsaw, we tried to arrange the meeting with Truszkowski. That's the founder and genius. That's a kind of Elon Musk of education in Poland. So this school provided a shelter for children who hate school, the traditional school. And in a sense, it's like optimizing in between the space of legal requirements, which are still coercive because there is a compulsory curriculum. And if you want to study Confucius in Chinese, you cannot because you have to study Mickiewicz in Polish. So this coercive curriculum, but they optimize in between so that to provide kids maximum freedom and at the same time somehow put down the fires which are caused by the fact that people are outraged that kids may not know this or not know that, or just perhaps not pass exams at 60% because they pass at 50%. So this school is optimizing this space, but this school has 40,000 kids. And I predict this year can be even more if there are no legal restrictions put on on their situation. So perhaps what I claim pretty often that Poland can be the leader in this change may happen, and it's not because of SuperMemo or other things, just because of this Elon Musk of Polish education, who created a school where kids find refuge, and they found a fantastic simple algorithm that helps people move from one system to the other, from coercive system to this freedom-loving system. And this algorithm is so simple that me, who tried to recruit many families in the past and had zero success rate, now get to the count of 30, 40 families, which I managed to convince they should move in that direction. So I can take credit for 40, maybe 60 happy kids in Poland who now enjoy freedom. 40,000 kids this year. Next year, I predict could be 30, 40, maybe 60% more.
Freedom in quotes, because they still have to go through the curriculum, through exams once a year, stuff like that, right?
So just yesterday, I
Hmm.
got a message from a friend who was one of the striking leaders in my city, meaning he probably was the longest kid not going to school. And because of this, probably he failed his class. I'm not sure if it was last year or was this year. Nevertheless, he moved to this new school at my urging, which cost him 1 year because he was in the technical school first, or was it the vocational school? I'm not sure. Now he sent me a message. Peter, I passed 10 out of my 14 exams. I'm so happy. This life is so beautiful. So maybe this school is not yet entirely uncoercive. It's not fully based on freedom, but the contrast between what he experienced in previous years and what he got now just makes him so enthusiastic. So this relative difference of freedom generates lots of enthusiasm. Kids are just literally curing dyslexia, and it's one of my the reasons I'm so confident about the causes of dyslexia. Lots of kids with confirmed medical psychiatric diagnosis of dyslexia, they go to this freedom school. 2 years later, they test in the norm. So this Sifaan. I hope this kind of concept has to percolate to your place.
But is this being logged, registered, that those people had diagnosed case of dyslexia, and after some years of in this school, it's reversed? So there's someone that
Gone,
can
gone,
verify
gone.
this.
I have two cases. I have two cases. Both are named Gabby. One is a boy, one is a girl from two different families.
Hmm.
Both were diagnosed in the fourth grade, which is around 11 years, 11 years old. And 2, 3 years later, they were both considered symptoms free.
Hmm.
And one of those kids even had in his diagnosis, which I saw, I had it in my hands, I mean, on my computer, deep dysgraphia. So at the age of 10, he practically couldn't sign his own name. I mean, that's the basis of this kind of diagnosis. So at least two cases, which I know very closely. I even met those kids, not all of them, uh, kids from the family from this boy Gabby. I met them all, freedom loving family. They had huge problems in school because of dyslexia and deep dysgraphia. The kid is now symptoms free 2 or 3 years later. So how can I not be so confident that school is causing dyslexia? I touch it, I see it. I have evidence from SuperMemo. I
If I'm a politician, I would say, well, the N is just two.
is this what?
Two. You identify two cases out of how many people are diagnosed in Poland? Yeah.
Yeah, how how many people I know with dyslexia who moved to Mura? Yeah, I don't know a single case of a dyslexia that moved to the school in the cloud that hasn't improved. So that's like 100% small sample. But I'm a scientist. I know lots of points of evidence. I'm just saying about one piece of evidence which just solidifies it.
And so the only critique I have is why this is not being published on research if it's genuine data.
Nobody cares.
It's a waste.
Yes, absolutely, it's a waste. You can read my dyslexia conspiracy article. It speaks about all the forces. There is a lot of vested interest. There is a teachers' lobby. There is a lobby of people who earn on dyslexia. There are parents who benefit from dyslexia, kids who benefit from dyslexia. It's a spiral of diagnosis caused by school coercion.
Yeah, but remember what you said in the second part of the event that people laugh at you. They say you're
Hmm.
stupid or some synonym, but they don't even
Hmm.
read the proof or whatever. They just don't
But
do any
that's not.
research. But let me finish. But what if you play their game? That hey, I have a peer-to-peer reviewed article about this. I'm talking on your language kind of thing. So then they could read that instead of just saying, "Oh, you're stupid," and I move on without reading anything. You know
You
what I mean?
need a critical mass in science. So when they call you stupid, it's totally understandable because they open Wikipedia. What is dyslexia? It's a heritable neurodevelopmental disorder. They are fully justified. With this little research, why is the guy saying the school is causing dyslexia if it's a neurodevelopmental? You're born with this. It's heritable. Your brain develops differently.
Hmm.
So that's justifiable. They have the right to call me an idiot. If they are a little bit more persistent, they can go to ChatGPT and ask, is it possible that school causes dyslexia? And they get the same answer. No, it's a heritable neurodevelopmental disorder. They would they learn about Peter Gray and his research, or democratic schools, or unschooling, or the cases of those kids which are not even documented online, apart from the perhaps Facebook messages? No, because the preponderance of knowledge is it's a neurodevelopmental disorder. So if all knowledge is indicating that it's a neurodevelopmental disorder, then people just believe it's a neurodevelopmental disorder and call the guy who claims otherwise an idiot.
That happened to
So
you.
Sifan,
Yeah, sorry.
I wanted to say to Sifan that my passion for changing the world of education and ending coercion is burning as strong as ever. But now I see a chink in the armor of this whole structure. If we can prove or have say publications by, I would try to convince Peter Gray to use my data to write a publication.
Hmm.
If we can have such a publication, we have a scientific evidence. School is doing harm. Oh, obviously, he did probably even a better paper about school is causing suicide, or that's my paraphrase of his research. But if you give this kind of research to people who have all their life believed that's the benefits of schooling, coercive schooling, if all the psychology they learn from one piece of unusual joint activity to take the end school slate review, they alert. Shall I do this?
Wait. You get a message.
I get the message unusual activity, security actions, mark
It's
results.
because a lot of people joined because his server is almost dead. Yeah, no worries. Uh,
Uh, this is surprise. Surprise for
you
them.
can continue. No worries. Yeah.
Okay. Now I got lost where we are. Here, okay. So, Sifan, we have one new ally. It's a concept of educational dyslexia, the simplest scientific proof that coercion in schooling is causing damage to the education process itself. In terms of suicide, you can say some people are prone to suicides. Maybe the school triggers it. The typical teacher's explanation is that a student is weaker or less resilient. Perhaps parents are not nice. Goes to school. School makes it worse. And anyway, even if you bring publications of texts by Peter Gray, once they call you an idiot, by extension, they say, oh, probably he is some kind of crazy guy from America who doesn't know real education because he's studying only democratic schools.
Now that you mentioned America,
Ivan,
okay. Oh yeah,
you want to
please.
say something, Palace?
Yeah. So Sahil also wants to say something. So let him speak first and then say what I wanted to say. But yes, Sahil.
Like I don't want to
Wow.
say, I don't know what to say now, but when I have some, because I can overhear, so when I have something to say, I'll say
Oh,
it.
okay, okay, right, okay.
What
So as you,
a sweet voice. What a sweet voice. The future, the future, the son of Korchak. That's the son of Korchak speaking. Lovely.
um, I sorry, I there is okay, sort of one of the underlying systems in the world that we have now, because it's part of sort of what we could call the Western system, and because of colonization is now a global thing, is that basically people are oppressed, and when they try to protest or rebel against that, or if they don't meet the standard that is expected of them, then they are pathologized as being a problem. There's something wrong with you. So in the time where slavery was legal in the United States, if a slave wanted to escape the plantation, they called that, there was a name, drapidomania, something like that. So it was a
Yeah.
disorder. A slave wanting to be free was pathologized as a disorder, right?
Yeah.
Um, so when schools are getting more and more competitive and children are required to read and write at younger and younger ages, of course, some children are going to be unable to do that. And then rather than accept that, hey, we have a really oppressive system that is demanding things of children that in the past was not demanded, we just label the ones who can't make it as being dyslexic and things like that. So this is not to say that there aren't children who are maybe born with brains wired in a certain way, but I think the reason why we have more diagnosis of dyslexia, more diagnosis of ADHD, more diagnosis of autism than before is because these, it's not like, if I have COVID, you can do a PCR test and you can get a positive result because there are fragments of this COVID virus in my body. But you can't look at the genes, you can't look at the blood and say if somebody is ADHD or autistic. It's just a set of behaviors that meet a diagnostic criteria. And I think a lot of children who are just being thrown into coercive education at younger and younger ages are rebelling in very natural and very human ways and are being pathologized. So I think if we understand it, and this is something that from the neurodiversity kind of angle is coming out, and this is why I say we need to really work with people in many areas, is that, hey, why are you saying that different is the disorder, or that different is a deficit? Different is just different. I mean, now a left-hander is considered just different, but back in the day this was, sinister. You're the devil's spawn, or there's something wrong with you, and people used to hide the fact that they were left-handed. And I think the reason why we now see so many late diagnosed autists is because they had to hide their autistic traits when they were young, because it wasn't acceptable to demonstrate this. So they learned to mask. So there is, you know, is it really that they were wired in a certain wrong way, or was it just that they were different and they had to hide it? in Sri Lanka, still homosexuals would be very undercover because there's a lot of um, social stigma around it. So if you are homosexual, if you're bisexual, you wouldn't be open about it. And I think that's where autism was 40 years ago. Um, so, I mean, I think, and I think Yana has written a book also about how schools cause dyslexia in some people. So I
Yes,
think
yes,
it
yes.
is possible to find some research. And so another area I think is also that a lot of times democratic schools or free schools have stayed under the radar and are not represented in research. So that's why for this recent evolving capacity research, I really wanted Kinder Republic to be part of it. So for myself, I might, even though sort of academia is not really my thing, I think I still might try to go into that area in terms of a master's or a PhD to actually, like Peter Gray is doing, to do research on children in more free educational spaces that respect the autonomy, and to show that hopefully that things like mental health are better, suicidal tendencies are less, antisocial behaviors are less. So to show that actually this, you know, I mean, in Sri Lanka, people say that our schools have a drug problem because children are using recreational drugs, and they say that the problem is because some students are using it and because it's available, and nobody's actually considering that maybe there's a systemic structural issue behind why children are turning to drugs, because there are some needs they have that they can't get met any other way. Um, so yeah, I think we need
Stefan,
to look
Stefan,
at
but
some of the.
you say that you're not an expert in neuroscience or psychiatry, but you're just living proof of how people who live in the free environments of democratic schooling or unschooling, they are much more sensitive to how the development looks like. What is the impact of coercion or just pushing things on kids? So this community is actually the source of inspiration for what I'm working on. But obviously, from my side, the brain point of view, from the neuroscience point of view, you have so much evidence to confirm that now just like we live in symbiosis, but we need someone of this reputation like Peter Gray to have a public. I know that he is now working on a new book, so probably he's not too excited about writing a scientific publication about dyslexia, but he already made a world of difference with the publication on suicide. So I hope to convince him that the publication about dyslexia would be equally monumental, especially with suicide, however tragic, is a smaller phenomenon than dyslexia. It's 100,000. But yet I wanted to say two things because not everybody will know. Kinder Republic is Sifaan's school. Democratic school is Sri Lanka. I used this term 2 or 3 times. I'm not sure people know. Kinder Republic is the school. And Korczak is the Polish leader, a Polish pioneer of democratic schooling or the democratic schooling thought, who died in Treblinka in a concentration camp during the World War II. So, yeah.
And
Maybe
Korchak's which was called Children's Republic, which I didn't know until I visited his sort of memorial in Warsaw. And Kinder Republic is also Children's Republic. Just that we use a
exactly.
German.
Exactly. Sifan, but I have one question. I came up with an idea that there are so many movements in the area of free education, democratic schooling, child rights. We need to unite those, and I thought we should have a single like Wikipedia of freedom of in education. So we have now this wiki. You contributed some articles, but somehow we don't have the traction behind this. Do you have an idea what we should do just to unify?
So, well, unification, like, is a uh, very attractive kind of goal, and I think we have a lot of stories about how everybody united, like Fellowship of the Ring kind of things, and it really worked out well. But I think in today's world, for people working in these kind of spaces, that kind of unification is maybe too much of a stretch, because each of us have our audiences, have our funding sources. So there is a certain competition or conflict, but I think we still can cooperate a lot more in just even in sharing the news of what each others are doing, amplifying their voice, using their material. So, uh, for sure, having a wiki where, like, yes, you can publish your stuff on your website, on your blog, on your Substack, but would you also make an entry here so that you are also more findable? At least you just have a stub here and you said read the full thing here, and they come to your Substack or your Patreon, wherever you want them to come to. Because the thing is that a lot of people want to build their own audience, so they're not happy with publishing their content on, say, your wiki rather than on their Substack or their Patreon, where they could raise funds. But at least post some of it here and say, come to this place for the full thing. So we still then have uh, kind of at least most of it available in one place. So that kind of cooperation, the more we can do, the more visibility we have, and I think that's a good thing to aim for.
Maybe I will ask somebody in the audience who is solid in social media, because I think social media must be the answer unless we find our own tools. What is the best platform to unify the movements? In Poland, we have incredible dispersion of forces. Some people work here, they work there, they coalesce in some conferences, in some meetings, and common ideas, elections. But these are all forces going in all different directions. The same common core, going for freedom, and yet pulling in all directions while the system stays in place because it's established in law, even in the Constitution. So, what is the best platform to unify people, at least in a single country? Anybody got an idea? Actually, I know who got an idea. The name is Rusem, but I know his English is not too good, so he'll not speak. He'll not speak. Okay, no problem. Rusem, I'm speaking about you. Okay, be free. So Jagermeister, Playful Cloud. Okay.
Um, what do
Yes,
you mean by unification exactly?
you have many forces which pull in different directions. Every single person who wants to free the kids may have his own idea how to do it and reasons how to do it, and they may be different from the other persons. And all those differences cause divergence. So people accumulate the effort in different places. So, as an example of unification, I try to convert a student strike into a roundtable of education that would bring a law as simple as possible that could be understood by any politician and any parent and child and teacher. So the law would be like a form of unification. But how to now make other forces, all forces in this Polish sub-universe, to direct into implementing that law, which is actually a consensus about the most logical, free educational system available. So, is it a social platform, a social media platform? Is it the setting up of a political party? What would be the mechanism? If you're speaking Playful Cloud,
Uh,
okay, because I heard some
I
voices.
would, yes, I'm in the train
Ah, okay.
here in Florida. I'm on a trip. Mm, well, at whatever level of scale we're talking about, whether local, community, or national or international, uh, I believe the only way to unify is a person that embodies the integrity with some vision, some results, some destination, and is competent to carry out that vision. And as this person unfolds in their journey, people will gather around them. And those people that gather around them, they will also learn this way of integrity, and then people will gather around them as well. There is no like technological system like social media that will organize people. It'll be a person, and it'll be many people who choose to step up to that not role, but to a greater level of integrity, and then others gather around them because they're attracted to that. That's how I see it. So in Poland,
I
someone has, yeah.
I think I would disagree with you. And I think our discussion about incremental reading is a good indicator. So I feel like I understand the new law to the last detail. I had lots of debates with lots of people about all single deal of that law. However, you can see that many years of incremental reading rather turn you into a outcast rather than a person who can, make crowds follow you. So there is a dilution of competence and expertise in this pyramid of people who organize as a network. That's why I think the only actionable force able to introduce, say, a new education law would be a concept network where each individual neuron is a human. We just need to organize this concept network before we have actual concept networks with protocols and neurocratic mechanisms, the mechanism for implementing neurocracy. All we have is social media. What I propose to Sifaan is to have a wiki, like a Wikipedia of smart people who know where education should go and should unite the resources from the whole world without looking who is benefiting by this association and how. Just one single purpose: changing education to the education that makes sense. But maybe, second.
There's a system that resembles what you're describing called cognitism, created by John Ash. He has you might call it an AI, like a computational system called Iris that backs it. It's very similar to what you described, except it has both bottom up elements and top down elements, like recursively. Like it sounds like what you're describing is sort of like the bottom up with the individual neurons, how you gather that energy together. And then what I'm talking about is the top down element of.
Okay, so I think I think you mean like something like back propagation or algorithm. You go to the input, back to the. It's like waves of computation.
Yeah. So this system implements like the two waves, like the directions. But I can just describe the system like in summary if you're interested, or I can just link it in the chat.
Oh, I'll just look it up, definitely.
Okay, I'll link it in the chat.
The thing is that this concept network, the way social media or future concept networks, social concept networks should work, should mimic the brain, because I think the way the brain does it is optimum. I don't think you can improve upon this. This comes even large language models. When you look at the neural networks, how they work, and you dig deeper into neurons, how they crystallize their meaning in the network, this is a universal thing. And I think even if you look at the universe and intelligence in general, it's based on the very same principle. So now we have a huge number of powerful neurons like Sifaan, like Palace, like immodestly saying me, because I work on it like crazy. We have so many powerful neurons, we just need to work in the same direction. I mean, they don't even need to work in the same direction. They need to specialize their roles and contribute to the network so that the ultimate outcome is going that one single specific direction. So Sifaan may be busy with Kinder Republic, I may be busy with SuperMemo, Paris may be busy with Socky, but we all have the same universal value which can transmit further to the network, and the network produces an outcome which is a change of constitution, change of laws in different countries, overcoming the weaknesses of democracy. So more than just back propagation, like real intelligence, like real brain. Guys, I think we got 4 minutes to the end.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just say one thing. We are in a kind of limbo in Poland because Stefan, I didn't give you an update on what's happening in Poland. We just get to the very happy point where the parliamentarians decided to work together in a group in the parliament on concepts similar to Lex Libertas or Lex Libertas diluted or Lex Libertas debated. So, in other words, the higher we get in the levels of power, the more diluted the idea gets. And now, students who could, for example, undertake a school strike wouldn't exactly have a good criterion for the school strike because all they could do say to the parliamentarians, hey, hurry, guys, draw your conclusions. If they don't do, there's no pressure. The diluted idea lives in kind of limbo. So we have accomplished a lot, and still it's like malaise. We need better unification for in the entire world and also in our country. Just we need right tools for that. Sifaan, I'm just optimistic. I'm telling you, if you see forces against your efforts, in my country looks really promising. Okay, Palace.
Yep.
So, if guys, I promised that in the last 2 or 3 minutes we'll switch to Polish because there are a couple of guys from Poland who are not so fluent. So I suggest the following: you terminate the meeting.
The recording,
So
you mean?
we say goodbye. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Say again.
The recording, you mean, not the meeting.
The recording there, the recording, the official meeting. And I will then switch to Polish and I will welcome people who may not be so fluent in English, not be ready to speak English.
Okay.
But Sifaan is muted. Do you want to say something for the summary at the end?
Well, I would have been nice to hear from more people, but I don't know if the language barrier was also part of it. But still, I hope that there was still some kind of connection being made here, and looking forward to connect with you all in future in whatever other opportunities that come up. Sahil wants to say bye.
Bye.
Bye, young man. Thank you for coming. We need to
Yeah.
connect independently. It'd be nice to
All
get
right.
to know your dreams.
All right.
Okay,
Take care,
thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, so apology to everyone who speaks English. I will now say a few words in Polish. To panowie, możemy teraz na polski przejść? Jagermeister, czemu się nie odzywałeś? A może oni się wszyscy powyłączali w tym czasie, zanudzili się. Bartek, wejdziesz na scenę? Czy się wstydzisz? O, Jagermeister, wpuść palec Jagermeister. Ale Jagermeister can speak English because actually your English is great. Like to speak. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got turned off a bit. Sorry.
Okay. Słuchajcie, Bartek, ty się odezwiesz? Czy się wstydzisz? Jest Bartek.
Halo?
Cześć Bartek. Słuchałeś
Cześć.
trochę? Mało, a widzisz.
Okay, so
To prawda jest taka, że po tylu latach szkoły, bo Bartek, ty już masz 8 lat szkoły za sobą, ja 8,5.
No.
I cały czas miałeś angielski?
No.
No. No widzisz, a gdybyś w gry grał cały czas, rozmawiając po angielsku, to już byś był super fluent, nie?
Tak.
Tak jak David Adasi. So they play games and they learn English very fast. Uczą się angielskiego grając w gry. Rusem, a ty słuchasz? Jesteś? Słyszałeś, jak cię wywołałem? O ja, okej. Rusem, you made to speak.
No, jestem.
Jesteś, słuchaj. No i co, ile zrozumiałeś?
No, wszystko chyba, nie? Ja
Uuu,
angielski rozumiem, tylko nie umiem go używać, bo gubię słowa.
mm. Słuchaj, jaki jest wymiar tego spotkania dla ciebie? Optymistyczny czy średnio?
Bardzo optymistyczny.
No. Cały świat chce coś zmienić, nie? Nie
No,
tylko
robi
my,
to wrażenie. Tyle
nie,
osób w jednym miejscu.
no. No jeszcze przed chwilą było nas więcej, tylko żeśmy rozmawiali więcej o SuperMemo, wolnym uczeniu się. W sumie ludzie najbardziej się interesują tym, co ich pasjonuje, nie? Czyli chcą się uczyć lepiej.
no właśnie.
To jest tak, najpierw jesteś nifenem, się buntujesz, potem dostajesz depresji i niewiele robisz, albo jak jesteś zbuntowany, to strajkujesz. Dopiero jak się uwolnisz, już idziesz na te studia i później dalej. Wtedy nauka rozkwita, no ale wtedy skupiasz się na swoim życiu, nie? Albo na swoich dzieciach, bo dzieciaczki się pojawiają już tam u niektórych w wieku 25 lat. I ci ludzie to się też skupiają na edukacji swojej, nie? Ja mam bzika na punkcie edukacji innych ludzi. To jest moja profesja. W sumie całe życie w tym siedziałem i teraz widzę ten kontrast między radosnym uczeniem się a tym, jak jest w szkole. Widzę, jak dysleksja się rozwija. W ogóle nie było u was na tym pierwszym spotkaniu, to wam powiem. Tam było takie główne twierdzenie. Jak używasz najlepszej metody uczenia się przez 25 lat, to nie licz, że po 25 latach będziesz najwyższym człowiekiem na planecie. Po 25 latach będą cię wyzywać od idiotów, bo ty powiesz im, że dyslekcja działa tak i tak, oni będą gówno, prawda? Wikipedia mówi coś innego, ChatGPT mówi coś innego, więc się nie znasz, shut up, idiot. No, takie było główne twierdzenie. Słuchajcie, czy jest ktoś jeszcze na widowni, co po polsku mówi? Ktoś się zgłosi jeszcze? Po polsku, nie memo? Jajecznik, jajecznik? Oh, that sounds like Polish.
No, bardzo polski.
Jajecznik, do you speak Polish? Will you join us on the stage? Aka, Blinky and Lila.
We can always still switch to English.
We
No
can always,
problem.
but the Russian will not speak, Bartek will not speak. Never mind. Okay, we have the basic
I can
summary.
translate.
We can translate. Okay. So, Jager, one day you said that we can use Discord to organize people into communities, and I had a look at this. I'm not sure what's the name, the Yamnichek site, which is very popular. I understand that this is associated with games, so games drive the community. Okej. Ty na jakim serwerze jesteśmy teraz? Invite speak. Invite to speak.
No, aktualnie jesteśmy na Enshul Chivalry.
End School Slaver, okej.
Yes.
Bo mnie wywaliło, nie wiem dlaczego, ale może dlatego, że No School zaczyna teraz.
Ktoś chyba zakończył spotkanie, wiesz?
Dobra. A może ono się automatycznie zakończyło jako 60-minutowe?
A, mogło też tak być, no. Równo z godziną.
Dobra, rozmowy. Teraz idziemy na no school, tak? Jest to jeszcze?
No, można.
Dobra, to słuchajcie. I will say in English. Adalwolf Akablinki. Guys, we're moving to the school, to a server no school. No, sorry, no school, but it's in Polish. So if anybody wants to go, I can send a message, or Ruslan, you can handle this.
I have under profile
Okay,
information.
Akablinki i Adalwolf. Akablinki i Adalwolf. Jeżeli gadacie po polsku, to przejdźcie na no school, na server no school.
Okay, so then see you.
See you.
Yeah.